to better lives for all. New Lotte, the power of a better world. New today, better tomorrow. Lotte.
Coming up on Arirang News. Typhoon Khanun, packing torrential downpours and strong gusts, is moving north and is expected to pass the capital, Seoul, tonight. Killing at least one person, more damage is expected. China resumes its outbound group tours to South Korea for the first time in more than 6 years since Seoul's deployment of a U.S. defense system. Beijing's COVID-era group travel ban has been lifted for other countries as well, including the U.S. and Japan. South Korea's state-run think tank expects the country's economy to see a growth of 1.5% this year, unchanged from its previous forecast in May. Good evening. It's 9 p.m. here in Seoul. Thank you for joining us on Arirang News. We begin with Typhoon Khanun that's battering South Korea. It's been pouring intense rain and bringing gusty winds since its landfall on the peninsula this morning, and it is expected to pass through the capital, Seoul, tonight. And for more details, we have our Lee Seung-min standing by live at the Weather Center. So Seung-min, what's the latest?
Well, Jiyoung, Typhoon Khanun, packing winds as fast as 24 meters per second, is now coming closer to South Korea's capital. Tonight will be a major concern for those across the Seoul metropolitan area, with Khanun carrying heavy rain and violent winds. As for the current trajectory, Khanun has gotten closer to Seoul. With central atmospheric pressure of 985 hectopascals, the rough estimate of Khanun reaching the capital is around 11 p.m. tonight, after it is set to pass through North Korea overnight. As the entire nation is under the direct influence of this typhoon, for now, central regions in Gyeongsang-do Province is under typhoon advisories. Parts of Gangwon-do Province and the surrounding waters have warnings in place. Expect heavy downpours to continue until tomorrow. Eastern Gangwon-do Province will see torrential downpours of up to 300 millimeters. Chungcheong-do, Jeollabuk-do, and Gyeongsang-do provinces will see up to 200. The Seoul metropolitan area and the surrounding regions will see about 150. And rain will contain gusty winds as well. The coastlines of Gyeongsang-do Province in particular will see strong winds, gusting as fast as 40 meters per second. Earlier today, cars were damaged by signboards and bricks blown by strong winds. Please take extra precautions and secure any items that can get blown away. That is all I have for you this hour, and I'll be back with more updates later in the newscast.
All right, thank you, Seung-min, for bringing us up to speed. And the typhoon, bringing with it heavy rainfall and strong winds, has caused damage across the nation. For more on that, we have our Lee Rae-hyun standing by on the line with the latest. So Rae-hyun, what can you tell us?
Yes, Jiyoung. According to the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasure Headquarters, as of 6 p.m., no casualties have been reported. Although the authorities are investigating the cause of one death in Daegu, a 67-year-old man who was reportedly found in cardiac arrest at around 12:30 this afternoon after being swept away by floodwater. He was moved to a nearby hospital but died there, which the officials classified as a casualty due to drowning and not due to the typhoon. In addition, a man in his 60s was reported missing also in Daegu at around 1:45 after he apparently fell into a ditch while in a wheelchair. Emergency authorities are currently looking for him. Now, authorities say as of 6 p.m., a total of 159 facilities have been damaged. These include 56 public facilities and 103 private properties. 51 roads have been damaged nationwide, and more than 40,000 households have seen power outages, with 94% of them now recovered. More than 14,000 people nationwide evacuated, with residents from Gyeongsang-do Province accounting for the most. We're starting to see strong winds in Seoul metropolitan area as the typhoon is expected to approach between around 9 p.m. to midnight. Access is being restricted to streams in Pyeongtaek, Gyeonggi-do Province, while ports in the West Sea are busy bracing for the nearing typhoon. And to ease traffic congestion, Seoul City is putting on more subways and buses. The city of Busan has also seen some damage, with some roads in Haeundae-gu district inundated by tidal surges. The city's fire department said it has received 239 emergency calls so far, but added that there had not been as much damage as in previous typhoons. No casualties were reported from Busan's beaches as police had closed off access roads in advance. Gangwon-do Province is also seeing heavy rain, with emergency alerts being issued to residents. As of 12 p.m., 105 calls related to the typhoon have been received at the fire department's headquarters, leading to the authorities conducting 2 rescues, issuing 3 evacuation orders, and investigating 20 safety issues regarding building damage. Emergency officials in Chungcheongbuk-do Province said they had received 53 calls as of 1 p.m. and had ordered the evacuation of 30 residents due to flooding. Some roads were blocked by fallen trees and sinkholes had emerged on others. That's all I have for this hour. Jiyoung.
Thank you, Raeyeon, for the updates. And next, our Song Yu-jin, who's been monitoring the typhoon's progress, reports from one of the country's most heavily affected regions by the typhoon.
It's been heavy rain and strong winds all day long in Gangwon-do Province. Weather conditions turned even more brutal on Thursday, though, to make it one of the hardest hit regions after Typhoon Khanun moved northward after it made landfall near the city of gov't, Gyeongsangnam-do Province, in the morning. From Wednesday until Thursday afternoon, the eastern part of Gangwon-do Province got between 300 and 400 millimeters of rain. At one time in the afternoon, there was up to 80 millimeters of rain per hour. This has led to farmlands, roads, houses, and cars being submerged. But people here are bracing for more. So the weather agency expects up to 600 millimeters of heavy downpours here by Friday, which is the heaviest rain forecast in the country. Not only pouring rain, but wind gusts are expected to reach up to 35 meters per second, which is strong enough to bring down trees and derail trains. Already, trees and streetlights are wobbling. Most stores nearby are closed. Ships are secured to their docks to minimize damage. Police patrol cars are out on the road to make sure people stay away from coastal areas as tall waves are violently crashing over seawalls. Raincoats and umbrellas do little against the relentless rain and howling winds. For safety, people are strongly advised to stay indoors and stay away from coastal areas, as well as regions vulnerable to landslides, rock falls, and electrocution hazards, such as construction sites and telegraph poles. 송유진, 아리랑 뉴스, 동해.
China has decided to lift its travel ban on group tours to a total of 78 countries, including South Korea. Seoul welcomes the move, hoping to bring Chinese group tourists back to the country after more than 6 years since the so-called thawed retaliation. Kim Mo-kyun reports.
For the first time in 6 years and 5 months, the Chinese government has given the green light for group tours to South Korea. In an announcement made on Thursday, China's Culture Ministry lifted its ban on group tours to 78 countries, which also includes the U.S. and Japan. It explained that its previous decisions to ease travel restrictions in January and March this year had a positive impact on its tourism industry. At that time, China was allowing group travel to a total of 60 countries following a decision to scrap its zero-COVID measures. However, South Korea was not on the list, with group tours to Korea banned from March 2017 in an apparent retaliation for the country's deployment of the U.S.-made Terminal High Altitude Area Defense, or the THAAD system. The South Korean government welcomes the move, saying it will launch efforts to attract more Chinese tourists. Seoul's Culture Ministry says it expects the latest announcement to bring life back to the nation's tourism industry, which was hit hard by the COVID-19 pandemic. To make things more convenient, the government plans to open new visa application centers in Beijing and Shenyang. It had already begun resuming its no visa transfer system for Chinese group tourists to Jeju Island in May. Meanwhile, procedures for Korean tourists applying for Chinese visas will also be simplified. Until the end of 2023, Korean people heading to China for tourism and travel purposes will no longer be required to provide fingerprints. Kim Mo-gyan, Arirang News.
South Korea's economy is expected to see a growth of 1.5% this year, according to a state-run think tank, unchanged from its previous forecast. It suggested signs of recovery with improvements in chips and auto sectors. Our Lee Soo-jin tells us more.
The Korea Development Institute has maintained its economic outlook estimate for this year at 1.5%. In its revised forecast published on Thursday, the South Korean state-run economic think tank kept its outlook unchanged from its estimate released in May. Its estimate for next year was also kept at 2.3%.
The economic growth in the first half of 2023 was in line with the KDI's forecast, and we expect the economy to recover at a similar pace during the second half as well.
The KDI, which typically releases economic outlook comprehensive reports in May and November, this year released 2 additional revised forecasts in February and August to reflect the rapidly changing economic conditions. The KDI's forecast is the same as the OECD's estimate, but higher than that of the South Korean government's, the Bank of Korea's, and the IMF's of 1.4%. The KDI said it maintained its economic outlook for this year as the South Korean economy is expected to see recovery driven by the manufacturing sector as exports of vehicles and chips continue to show improvement. Exports of goods are also expected to be boosted by the steady growth seen in the U.S. economy, which is expected to offset the impact of China's economic slowdown.
Exports of goods exceeded the forecast mainly thanks to vehicle exports in the first half of the year. For the year, it is expected to rise to 1.4%, surpassing the previous forecast of 0.7%.
In regards to consumer inflation, the KDI revised upward its forecast for the year to 3.5% from 3.4% on the back of higher oil prices. The price of Dubai crude oil this year rose from an average of $76 per barrel to $81. Concerns about external factors remain, however. The think tank said that recovery may be delayed if China's economic slump worsens from its real estate crisis or if global inflation rises, leading to countries tightening monetary policies. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
U.S. President Joe Biden signed an executive order on Wednesday local time that'll prohibit some U.S. investment into China's quantum computing, advanced semiconductors, and artificial intelligence sectors, and require firms investing in other tech sectors to notify the government. The order is aimed at preventing American capital and expertise from helping China develop technologies that could support its military modernization and undermine U.S. national security. In response, the Chinese Commerce Ministry said on Thursday that it was gravely concerned about the order and that it reserves the right to take corresponding measures. South Korea said the same day that the latest ban is expected to have a limited impact on Korean companies. South Korea's fiscal deficit in the first half of this year has already surpassed what the government had planned for the whole year owing to low tax revenue. According to the Finance Ministry on Thursday, the so-called managed fiscal balance, which excludes the social security funds like the national pension, stood at around $63 billion into the red from January to June. This outpaces the deficit forecast for the whole year set by the government by about $19 billion. The ministry attributed this to a drop in tax revenue driven by a fall in income and corporation taxes. The country's national debt has reached $823 billion as of June, up $37 billion from the end of last year. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un ordered an aggressive posture for war preparations during a military meeting, escalating tensions on the Korean peninsula ahead of Seoul-Washington joint exercises later this month. What's notable was his pointing at the South Korean capital on a map in a released photo. Our Choi Min-jung has more on what this means.
A photo released by North Korea's state-run media shows its leader Kim Jong-un pointing at the South Korean capital and the surrounding areas on a map. Speaking at a meeting of the Central Military Commission on Wednesday, Kim called on his regime to prepare for the possibility of war in an offensive manner. The regime's Korean Central News Agency reported on Thursday that Kim stressed the need to expand mass production of weapons. He also reportedly highlighted the importance of a strong army to carry out its military strategy. In addition, the leader called for the military to expand its drills to keep its forces perfectly ready for combat. Experts say the meeting was held as a show of discontent against Seoul and Washington's annual Ulchi Freedom Shield exercise set to take place later this month.
In the past, North Korea responded to Seoul-Washington drills by firing short-range ballistic missiles. However, this time, they have shown that they are preparing for war. Given this, tensions on the Korean peninsula are expected to rise considerably.
During the meeting, Kim also replaced his top general Park Soo-il with Lee Young-gil, who previously served as the regime's defense minister.
Lee Young-gil has a lot of real-life experience with regard to defense, security, and artillery. So hiring experienced personnel like this appears to be a strategic move to prepare firmly against South Korea's Ulchi Freedom Shield exercise with the U.S.
Also discussed in the meeting was North Korea's preparation for a military parade on September 9th to mark the regime's 75th founding anniversary. Given the prior notice, pundits say the scale of the parade is likely to be considerably big. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Foreign Minister Park Jin and his U.S. counterpart Antony Blinken have agreed to cooperate closely for the summit among the leaders of Seoul, Tokyo, and Washington at Camp David on August 18th. According to the Foreign Ministry here, Park and Blinken spoke over the phone on Wednesday and also agreed that the upcoming trilateral talks are a historic turning point for all involved. Hopes are high for active trilateral collaboration on security amid North Korea's hostilities and on economic initiatives as well as cultural interactions. Now moving on to the 2023 World Scout Jamboree. Young Scouts will enjoy a K-pop concert at Seoul World Cup Stadium on Friday as the event comes to a close. Scouts will enter the stadium in intervals for safety reasons, starting at 2 p.m. until 5:30 p.m. with a 2-hour concert to begin at 7. With around 43,000 due to attend, everybody will have an assigned seat. Around 40 medical personnel will be dispatched and 4 emergency centers will be set up, while weather conditions are being closely watched by the officials. There'll also be around 90,000 bottles of water for all the scouts and scout leaders. For the past couple of weeks, South Korea has been battling extreme heat as countries around the world battle adverse weather conditions. This has prompted more people to look for financial protection against the extreme heat and rain, what's called disaster insurance. Our Moon Hae-ryun went out to investigate this trend and the current underlying issues.
When you think of extreme weather conditions, what image comes to mind? With the heatwave that's been gripping the country for the past 2 weeks, insurance companies and the government are working to provide financial support and compensation for damage that's been wrought by the weather, not just limited to flooding. This insurance company has recently released a new insurance package that's been garnering attention amid the increasing number of heat-related illnesses like heat stroke, as it covers health problems specific to different seasons.
You can receive 300,000 Korean won, or roughly $228 with this insurance plan if you're diagnosed with a heat-related illness such as heat stroke or heat exhaustion at a hospital or general medical practice.
But it's not just people that are suffering in this weather. Livestock such as the goats here have also been affected. Extreme heat causes them to become more aggressive and prone to fights among themselves due to stress. Combined with the physical effects of heat such as loss of appetite, the heat wave has resulted in losses that farmers with smaller farms have been unable to be compensated for.
Many goat farms in South Korea are run on a small scale, so we can't join the Disaster Livestock Insurance Plan.
The current disaster livestock insurance plan in South Korea is run and regulated by the Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. And bee farmers too have found issues with it during their battle with the heat, as bees die from being unable to regulate temperatures inside melting hives.
Although bees are on the list of livestock that can be covered by the livestock insurance plan, it's impossible for us to claim compensation because, unlike cattle, we can't count the number of bees that have died. It's also not like all the bees die here. Some will die away from the hive.
The heat wave follows weeks of heavy downpours which cause damage to farmland and farm buildings, such as at this chicken farm. It's also far more humid this summer as a result of the rain, which means that diseases are being passed around more easily, as well as rendering water cooling systems like this useless.
Diseases like avian influenza are covered by the government insurance, but there are a lot of infectious diseases like the IBD that chickens are prone to that aren't.
So I visited the Agricultural Ministry to find out more about the current insurance plans available to these farmers. This plan was first made available in 1997 and has since come to include 16 different categories of livestock, including cattle, pigs, chickens, and sheep. The number of farms that have applied for this insurance has grown steadily over the years, but grew exponentially in 2022, with the number of farms signed up to this insurance jumping by nearly 50%. The government is well aware of the problems raised by farmers and plans to implement necessary changes.
We currently cover the primary effects of natural disasters like heavy rain or heat waves, but we're also running a trial with insurance policies to cover infectious diseases among livestock by starting with cattle from 2021 until next year.
With climate change having a global impact, the ministry is benchmarking insurance policies abroad.
Disaster insurance is becoming important as a result of more frequent adverse weather conditions. That's why we're monitoring insurance plans in countries where this is already well developed, like the United States, to help improve our own.
As countries continue to grapple with the intensifying effects of global warming, collaboration across borders to provide financial protection for people and livestock affected will become increasingly crucial. 문혜련, Arirang News.
A candidate in Ecuador's upcoming presidential election, Fernando Villavicencio, was shot and killed during a campaign rally on Wednesday local time in the capital, Quito. According to the local media, he was shot 3 times and 9 other people were injured, including 2 police officers. The suspect was also shot and later died. Villavicencio was a journalist and former member of Congress who reportedly had a reputation for tackling corruption during the regime of former President Rafael Correa. Ecuador is currently undergoing an early presidential election as the former president Guillermo Lasso resigned in May.
The capital region will be under the direct influence of Typhoon Khanun from tonight until tomorrow dawn. As you can see, a group of rain clouds are currently clustered across the Seoul metropolitan area. And due to the influence of the typhoon, the entire nation will be lashed with torrential downpours. At times, heavy rainfall of 30 to 60 millimeters will slam the nation. And while temperatures will stay in the similar range for Seoul at 28 degrees tomorrow, other regions will see hot spells returning. After the rain tapers off tomorrow daytime, a surge of hot air mass will bring temperatures to near 30 degrees. Places like Cheongju and Gangwon will see highs jumping significantly. Morning temperatures will be ranging from 23 to 26 degrees nationwide. For the daytime, Seoul and Chuncheon will get up to lingering showers. Highs in Seoul will get up to 28, Daejeon 29, Gyeongju will be topping out at 34 degrees. On Sunday, clear skies will make a return with highs of 30 degrees in Seoul. It's all for now, and here are the weather conditions around the world.
That brings an end to this Thursday night newscast. Thank you for watching. We'll be back tomorrow for the latest news. Good night and stay safe.
Welcome. 엄청난